Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, August 25th, 2025. So we start off with Kat and Gwen, right? Very unlikely that they would have been, paired up in this scene, but somehow they have some things in common. So Kat is cleaning out her office, well, her area at Dr. Marlena's office because she is, out of a job. Marlena is kind of taking an extended leave of absence. She doesn't know when she's going to come back to the hospital. So she bumps into Gwen, who just, had her blood drawn. She was saying, watch where you're going. She apologized. So anyways, she said she's irritable because she got blood drawn. They started making some jokes here and there. And then at some point, she recognized Gwen from the newspaper, heard about her marriage to Dimitri, and she told her that she can't stand him because of, I guess, what he and his mother did to people that she loved. And, she introduced herself as Cat Green. So Gwen recognized her because she was the one who paraded as her late sister and, deceived Chad and his family. And she apologized to Gwen, but Gwen doesn't care because Gwen does not like Abigail. She neither likes Dimitri as well because, again, he stabbed her in the back, sleeping with her best friend, and pretending to be straight and all of that. So she's still carrying that woman scorn thing on her face. And, she wants to befriend Kat because of those, actions. And she, applauds her for parading as Abigail, somebody she didn't know or met before. And, she said maybe we can, hang out. They can exchange numbers. And, yeah, that was it. But Gwen likes to just carry misery everywhere she goes. Like, what kind of grievance you should still have against your sister who is deceased? Like, get over it. But anyways, Javi and Leo, well, Javi is there making a Spanish dish, and Rafe and him are talking amongst themselves. He misses Leo. Leo comes in. Leo says he's free now. He doesn't have to do jury duty, and he tells them more about what happened at the last day of the trial. That Kristen testified, confessed, and Johnny is a free man. So Javi's just happy that Leo's back home. They can rekindle what they're doing, and Rafe is also happy for Johnny, and now Sammy can be happy that her son is free, right? That was really it with them. At some point they went out with the baby. They met up with Gwen. Very ugly interaction as usual. I'll get into it at some point in the recap. So Marlena and Rachel come home. Rachel is quiet. Marlena asks her what's going on. So she still can't stop thinking about Uncle EJ. And, she's saying that if Johnny is free from all these charges, who's the real killer? Or who's the real accomplice behind this shooting, right? So Marlena says, it was your mom. So of course Rachel is stunned because she's like, you're lying. Mom said she didn't do this. Like, what is gonna happen to her? She's not gonna come home. Like, did she tell a judge she's guilty of the crime? So, Marlena tries to assure her that, look, we don't know what's gonna be the outcome of it, whether she's gonna have a lengthy sentence or she's, gonna be acquitted. We do not know as yet. Just know that I'm here for you, Daddy's here for you, and you got family that's there for you, right? So of course she's visibly upset about everything going on. So back to Leo and Javi, they're in the square, and they're there with baby Tesaro. And they're happy, that Leo is back home where he belongs. And then he starts to talk about a trial a little bit. He just doesn't understand how Kristen just can come at this point and confess way down in the trial, letting her nephew take the fall. And, Javi is asking him, since he didn't get a chance to deliver the verdict, what is the actual verdict before Kristen confessed? So he said that, I can't get into it. So he said, the trial is over now. You can tell me. So he tells Javi that, look, we were going to deliver a not guilty verdict for him. So Gwen happened to overhear it, and she says, interesting. So Leah's saying this is a private conversation. So she said, you shouldn't be having that in the square. So anyway, she begins to behave nasty and snarky towards him. And, he was calling her a pet name that he used to call her Guinevere, and she was saying, don't call me that at all. So he said, I'm assuming that you shouldn't call me Matty or anything like that. So she said, I detest any nicknames I used to call you. But anyways, like, she was asking him, I guess she was just getting into him about you know, all the things that he has done to her, and she's still feeling a type of way. And Leah said, look, like, I'm done apologizing. If you don't want to forgive me, that's all fine. I am good where I'm at because all of those actions led me to this wonderful relationship with Javi and, you know, her baby to Sarah, and I'm happy. So, of course, she's saying, oh, you look at you all happy. Not everybody in this world can be happy and all of that. So she's just being miserable, disrespecting him and how he stood up for him. And she's saying, like, how gallant of you. He's going to start being about like he did me and all of these things. So, you know, she just always seems to just always bring misery wherever she goes. Why don't she just get help, therapy, whatever, right? So Chad came to talk about, you know, what happened in court today with EJ. He overheard from somebody that works at the newspaper that, okay, Kristen confessed to the crime and Johnny's acquitted. And, you know, he's like saying how this come about because, you know, Kristen swore up and down when she was testifying that she had no clue what happened and that, you know, she did not shoot you. So how come this changed all of a sudden? And why would she let her nephew, your son, go down for a crime that he didn't commit? It just doesn't make no sense. And the way how you're operating really calm for somebody whose son had to go through that. So he said that, look, I have faith in the justice system that they're going to handle it. I just want to, you know, move on and work on my relationship with my son, which is very estranged right now. So Chad said, can you blame him? Like, you wanted his wife to go to jail for a crime she didn't commit. You put her under the bus. So he's saying, yeah, I get all of that, but it wasn't that extreme. So of course Chad is disagreeing with what he's saying. Again, EJ doesn't take any accountability for that. So anyways, you know, he just doesn't find it accurate because why would Kristen want to do that at the sake of losing the relationship with her own daughter just because, you know, she's trying to save the relationship with your son? It doesn't make no sense. So Chad just wants to move forward. EJ wants to move forward, sorry. And he says to Chad, like, look, I just focused on our family move forward. Like, how about you and Kat? You guys have been spending a lot of time together. You know, I knew you guys were going to move forward and you need to move on from Abigail. So while they're talking, Gwen again eavesdropping comes in and Chad is saying this is a private conversation. So he said, so she's saying, what's with people saying private conversations? I live here and all that. So he's like, see your way out. So he said, like, you know, how about you see your way out? And, you know, honestly, she's a step up above Abigail. So he is just had enough of her. He leaves at some point because EJ doesn't want to hear it. And he said he has a meeting to go. But before that, Gwen tells him that, look, I overheard Leah talking about what the verdict would have been, and it would have been your son would have come back not guilty. So, of course, EJ feels a little bit guilty about Kristen going to jail, even though the verdict would have came out differently. But he's saying, like, you know what? Can I help you now, Kristen? And I'm saying, EJ, you're a lawyer. You could have easily worked to get your sister out, right? Because now you didn't even have to go through all this. Kristen didn't even have to go to jail because of this, right? If you just sit down and just see it play out and see what happens, right? Kat does meet up with Rafe at some point, and Rafe is happy to see that she's recovered, and she thanks him for the soup and that he, you know, covered up by using his alias. And he said, yeah, I knew what to do because I knew Chad was there. So she's like, how did you know? So he's like, I'm an FBI agent. What you mean? So anyways, she tries to like cover up and said that Chad was just helping her and Felicity get better, and then he got sick and that's why he stayed over there. And he said, oh, you don't have to defend nothing to me. It is what it is. So she tells him about the fact that her, you know, she doesn't have a job because Marlena is not sure when she's coming back to the hospital. She also said that she ran into Gwen Rischek and that, you know, they're now going to be friends or pals. So he's saying, are you sure about that? Because her and Chad have a complicated history. And she's saying, you know, maybe I can get closer to her so I can find out more information on each and all that. So he said, you know, that's smart. But at the same time, just be careful because of Gwen and Chad's complicated history, right? If y'all didn't know before, Chad and Gwen, you know, they slept together. Chad thought it was Abigail, I think, and then Gwen ended up pregnant, and at some point, Gwen blamed Abigail for her miscarriage, right? Once again, another awkward and unnecessary encounter between Chad and Kat. And they're just catching up after, they both became ill and he had to spend time at her house. So she asked him how it went over with Julie. He said that she was zen, surprisingly, about it all. And she's surprised that that actually happened. Well, she's happy that, she didn't go hard on him, right? So, she apologized for kissing him when she was sick. And he said, look, it is what it is. He was smiling about the whole kissing moment as well. And that was really it. They checked on each other, found out if they're all good after, being sick. Again, another unnecessary awkward encounter between these two. So back to Brady and Kristen, right? So Brady, as expected, is gonna tear into Kristen, and he's telling her that, look, like, I can't believe you did this to our daughter. I can't believe you would risk your relationship with our daughter and do this again. Like how selfish you can be, making Johnny take the fall, affecting not only him but his family, and shooting your brother. So of course, Kristen didn't tell him the exact truth, but she's saying that, I did it because EJ did not tell me where my mother was, and we were just starting back a relationship again. And she was being a grandmother to Rachel, and I didn't mean to, shoot him or anything, but it just happened. That's the story. And Brady didn't buy it at first because he's saying, like, it just doesn't add up. Like, you testified differently, and then you made her daughter go up on the stand. Like, how could you do it to her? He doesn't buy her story. Like, if anything, he's saying that, okay, if you wanted to know where your mother was, why would you want to shoot EJ and get rid of him? So some things don't add up. But again, at some point he ended up buying it, and he's saying, like, you're a terrible mother, you're a terrible parent, and basically just berating her. And she said, you really don't know the full extent of what happened. So it's like, at this point, he doesn't want to hear it. He's saying to her that you will never see your daughter again. And I just feel so bad for Kristen, because Kristen is in the jail cell breaking down, because he doesn't believe that she loved her daughter, and she did this because of her daughter. She really sacrificed everything. And I'm saying, I'm just so upset with EJ, because EJ's a lawyer. EJ could have well and done something to get Kristen off of these charges, especially now that he knew what the actual verdict was going to be. I don't know. Brady comes home and he has to comfort Rachel, and Rachel's asking how was her mother, and she saying that she's strong. Just know that we're gonna be there for you. At some point, Rachel goes, and then him and Marlena talk, and Marlena saying how's Kristen. He doesn't really care. He just can't believe that she would do this again to their daughter. Going back to jail and just scarring their daughter. And, it's just going to be hard. And Marlena just assures him that, look, we're all going to be there for her. No worries. So that was today's episode. I just really feel bad for Kristen. You can tell that she's really changed, and she does have a heart amidst what other people want to say about her. But that is it, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to my channel. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you guys tomorrow.